Oh, okay. So good. So this is the right. So indeed, this is part of the kosher cost that's built in. But ultimately, again, usually this is done at a bigger production facility, and they have other stuff that they can do. The guys, when I said that they go out and play golf, I was kidding. They don't. The guys don't lose that time. It's not that they're standing around not doing anything. They've got other things to do, and they've got other production that's happening, and so it's it certainly is part of the kosher cost.
Is this a
certainly
big
factored
loss
in.
for them? I mean, they're shutting down one piece of equipment.
Is it a big loss for them? So now you're asking me to become an accountant for the company. So I'll put on my accountant's hat. By the way, I'm not a certified CPA, so I can't really put on my accountant's hat, but I'll pretend to. And put on my accountant's hat, and I'll say, pretty simple. If it was a loss for them, and this whole koshering business didn't pay for them, why are they doing it? Why are they asking us? Why are they contracting with us? And in addition to having their cost of the downtime and of all the other associated costs of doing the koshering, they're paying the hashgacha to do the koshering. And if it's a loss for them, why are they doing that? That's just my. Now I'll take off my accountant's hat and get back to the hashgacha. So good. So now
this is the spray dryer.
Yeah. So this is the spray dryer.
The regular typical equipment that you kosher. This is a complicated one. The spray dryer is, you're saying, is
well, it's a complicated piece of equipment. The koshering is now. I have heard that there are certain dayas which say that you can't kosher a spray dryer, and they don't mean that you can't kosher a spray dryer. What they mean is that the only way to kosher a spray dryer is with libun. Now,
explain that, please.
Libun would mean using direct flame on the actual surface, on the production surface of the dryer. I've heard that happening I never did it. I heard of it happening one time on a very small spray dryer that would be dedicated to only one kosher product production forever, and the mashgiach at that time, this is going back many years, the mashgiach got in there into the dryer with a propane torch, and he did libun on that entire dryer. It was a smaller dryer.
Stories?
No, it was much smaller. This particular dryer was much smaller, and he.
Took him a week.
It took him a number of days to get it done, but the advantage was that and I don't know why. I suspect that it was because this particular hashgacha was really, really machmir on that situation. But it worked because, and as far as I know, that dryer is still in production. So it worked because that dryer is only making the one kosher product, and that's it. How hot does the say again?
How hot does the spray dryer even become when it's in usage?
So that's what I'm saying. So the burner element at the burner can get up to 400, 450 degrees. The air temperature in the dryer, in the section of the dryer that's actually in contact with the Michael, that will get up to 200 degrees, 230 degrees. Very few products can go any higher than that without the product burning. So they don't bring it up higher than that.
What's a typical task?
Louder.
A typical task. You go to Wisconsin sometimes.
Yeah.
And you have maybe 4 or 5 stops. What do you do at each of those stops routinely?
Oh, well, routinely. The routinely is
bowling.
yeah, mazel tov. The routine stuff is when I stop at the particular facilities to make sure that they're still staying in there. If the schedule is to stay in kosher, then you know, the production that they're making is using kosher ingredients and is using kosher procedures, and they haven't switched stuff without anybody being aware of it. That's the routine stuff that I'm doing.
Are you
But
the
the
Mashgiach
common
in those cases? Are you called? Do
Yeah,
you
yeah,
call
yeah.
yourself the Mashgiach in those cases?
yeah,
So let me
definitely,
ask
right,
you a
right,
very
and the situation in that situation is that many of the plants that we deal with do not require mashgiach tamidi. It's in and out, right? And I don't punch a clock. I don't let anybody know when I'm walking in. I walk in at 8 o'clock in the morning because everybody in the world walks in at 8 o'clock in the morning. I walk in at 9 o'clock at night. I walk in at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's because
I
you're a
walk in
Shimon
and say,
HaShemach.
no. There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys who do that stuff. They will come in at all kinds of weird hours when nobody's expected, because that's when. I won't say that's when people do the wrong stuff. Rather, I'll say that's when mistakes get made, because in the middle of the night, people get a little bit tired and they didn't notice what was. Yeah. So anyway.
Let me ask you another question. Obviously, the kalim that we have in our house, the pots and the pans, a lot of us know the halachas. We're looking for the strange kalim, like the spray dryers. Let's talk about another strange keli that I'm sure you deal with. The tankers that travel
Dairy tankers.
these type of, what do they call the
Tanker trucks.
Trucks and these
Tanker trucks, right.
Tanker trucks, which are issues of kavush, right?
That's correct.
Tell us.
Although,
Well, first
so good.
explain, First explain
so-
what issues may be.
Yeah, so good. So you have a couple issues of
us a
in the
story,
tanker
yeah.
trucks. So good. Well, a story is a common occurrence. The truck is transporting oil or shortening that is non-kosher because it's got some animal product in it, and now I want to use that same tanker truck to transport my kosher product. Transport my what?
I need for the listeners,
Yeah, go ahead.
For the listeners, I need them to understand that what even made the truck non-kosher. There was no fire in the truck.
So good.
Explain it.
Right. So this particular product, this particular oil,
Because there's a
or
heter.
not.
There's a heter involved. There are some people rely on the heter. Some people will even say that the truck didn't even become that. The tank.
Well, yeah. So good. So
explain
we'll get
what's
we get
going
to
on.
so this particular shortening has to be transported at a high temperature, because what's a high temperature? A high temperature is above Yad Soletis. A high temperature is like 150 degrees. It has to be transported at that temperature, because if it doesn't, that stuff is going to solidify. And if it solidifies in the tanker, that gets painful. Trying to dig it out of the tanker truck is not pretty.
But that doesn't apply at milk. That doesn't apply in oil.
Hang on. So now I have a non-kosher tanker truck, because there was bolea from this davar, which was above Yad Soletis, right? So good. So now I have to use this tanker. Now, why can't I just clean it out, rinse it out, and I'll take a look inside there and see that there's nothing in there, and I'll fill it up with
Hot water.
I'll fill it up with whey. I'll fill it up with lactose. If I fill it up with milk has to be kept at a cold temperature, transported. However, the possible problem is the truck has a flat tire. The truck loses its fuel injection system, and now he's sitting in the parking lot. And he's sitting in the parking lot, and it's taken a long time for that repair tech to come down, and it's 10 hours, and it's 15 hours, and it's 20 hours, and now it's 24 hours, and he's sitting in the parking lot, and now that there's kavisha from that non-kosher tanker, which only got rinsed out, into this kosher product. It used to be kosher, now it got trafed up. So the easy solution for that is, and this is the basic fallback that we always use, we always make sure that all of the trucks that we receive that are transporting kosher product always have a kosher wash from a kosher truck wash facility. They're essentially koshering that truck. However,
How is that
there
done?
is
How is that
it's done with Hagala. However, it's done with a kula.
Explain
It's done with a
Hagala.
kula, and
What's
the
Hagala part?
well, the Hagala part is Hagala is like anything else. You boil water and you boil up a keli, and that's Hagala. You know, you boil up the water. Well, that's the point. That's the point. So if there is a kula in this situation, and the kula is that and the kula is that it's not maim rochim. The Hagala is not maim rochim. Rather, the Hagala happens at a lower temperature. What I've seen is 190 degrees. They like to keep it for 10-12 minutes. And what they do is, and in fact, this is not at that temperature. When I kosher certain tanks, certain very large tanks, like for instance a silo, a milk silo that is a 250,000 pound milk silo, pretty big, kind of tough to fill that up with boiling water, kind of hard. So instead, what we do is we will boil up the water in a tank, a couple thousand gallons of water, and then we'll spray it into the into that silo, and so then you're getting iri mikli rishon. So that's how and in fact that's how they kosher the tanker. Again, iri, but it's not at maim rochim. Rather, it's close to 190 degrees. It goes for a longer time, though. So good. So now I have a kosher tanker. That's the fallback position. But in the case where I did not have a kosher wash, for instance, and there was, forget about, we won't talk about the treif situation. We'll talk about it became melchik because it transported milk or whey over a long distance. And now I want to transport something parv, like vinegar, like honey, like Worcestershire sauce, something. So it won't become melchik. That product won't become melchik unless there's kavisha. And the standard that we use is that as long as that trailer is moving, there's no kavisha.
But you were concerned about 24 hours of flat tire.
That's right. So that situation, thank God it hasn't happened to me. But that's because right now we're depending on that kosher wash. But in such a situation where there was no kosher wash, and in fact the tanker became melchik from the previous product, there would need to be as long as even if it's cross country, if he keeps moving, then the kavisha clock is not running.
I'll tell you another loophole. Another loophole is
you'll get your turn.
if it takes 24 hours for the taste to come out.
Yeah.
The taste that's coming out is pogum, and that's b'di'evet's mutter, anyways.
Interesting. Okay, so that's a
You
heter.
can't do it lechatchila.
Yeah.
You can't do it lechatchila. But if you're traveling short distances and something happened and you were there for 24
But
hours.
then there's another problem.
How long are they traveling?
Then there's another problem with the tanker, and that is that sometimes the tanker is transporting hot sauce. Now, vinegar is not an issue. Vinegar is just like anything else in terms of kavisha, but the hot sauce that's davar charif. Davar charif, you have kavisha a whole lot faster.
Right.
So now you got to make sure that there's a kosher wash. I had that situation happen one time where the tanker of hot sauce came in and it did not have a wash ticket, and boy did those boys scramble to find if in fact there was a kosher wash before we could allow it to unload.
Why are they scrambling? What's the worst that you're going to say to them?
I'm going to say it's not kosher. I'm going to say
sell it as not kosher. It's not a big loss to them.
it's not their business to sell tanker trucks. They buy products. They don't sell sell this stuff, they have to
don't
turn
have a big
they have
loss.
to turn to a broker, and they have to take the time, and what about production? Their production is waiting for that tanker to come in so that they can make production. Now you got to wait for the next tanker to come in. And this hot sauce, by the way, does not come in from Mankato. It comes in from Louisiana. It takes almost a day to get over here. So, they...
Speak up.
Yes, sir.
How often does your inspection cost the company more than $10,000? And what happens to you or your boss when there's a big loss? Does this happen often?
So right. So first of all, you're talking about money. I don't deal with money. I don't deal with money.
He's a shtick Ruthenius.
Yeah, in your dreams. But in terms of how often, I didn't quite get that. How often does it happen that they would have a loss if not for me finding very good. Okay, so good. So this is what happened. We made a product at a particular plant, kosher product. It just happened that the plant also makes non-kosher product. And the plant labels the non-kosher product very similar to the kosher product. We've been telling them about it for years that we don't like them to do that, but they insisted on doing it. Well, their customer ordered the kosher product. But they didn't ship them the kosher product. They shipped them the non-kosher product. But the customer's mashgiach was, I don't know, he was in a very, very difficult sugi in Gemara. And he didn't notice. And he didn't notice for like 2 weeks. They made a lot of product with that non-kosher ingredient that they got from our plant. And then somebody picked up his head he finished the sugya, he closed the Gemara. He picked up his head and he said, "Oh no, it's not kosher." And immediately they called us up and said, "Why did you do that?" And we said, "Do what?" He said, "Send us the non-kosher bread." I said, "What are you talking about? We have a clear indication on our product, and all of the stuff that we're making is kosher. It's got to have a siman. It's got to have a lot number. We know exactly which one is kosher and which one is not." And they had to eat that. They had to eat that product. That was a big loss that they had. They had a recall. Oh boy, they had fun. So, yeah, I can say that having the mashgiach on duty does save the companies.
So mostly you're protecting them instead of punishing them.
God forbid. We don't want to punish. We don't want to punish anybody. No. In fact,
They
that's
like
exactly
you. They
no.
like you.
That's exactly what it is. We try to protect them, and we try to keep a smile, and even though sometimes I may feel different, but anyway, yeah, like that.
Any other interesting equipment?
Other interesting
Or anything
equipment.
else you wanted to share with us? Any interesting experience with that?
There was one interesting experience that I had, which is, yeah. So I was in a plant, and they have something called a roll dryer. Now a roll dryer is a little bit different than a spray dryer because what happens is there is a large drum. Which can be anywhere from 3 to 8 feet in diameter, and it's mounted horizontally, and it's a steel drum, or at least it has a steel surface, and the surface is heated, and it is rolling slowly, and there's spray that sprays onto that drum, sprays the liquid product onto the drum, and as the drum is rotating at heat, it's drying off and forms a very thin layer, a thin film on that dryer surface, and then lower down on that drum is a knife which is scraping along the surface of the drum, and it scrapes off that product. At which point, since it's so thin, it crumbles very easily, and it forms a powder or a granulation or whatever it is. And there's some products that work better with a roll dryer like that than with a spray dryer. koshering a roll dryer is really simple because it's exposed. You know, you just do iri kli rishon straight from the boiling kettle, the boiling vessel, and you spray it on that surface, and yeah, spray it on the knives. It's really very simple. So I walked into the plant after they had run a non-kosher product, and the moment I walked into the plant, this incredibly awful odor hit me. I could barely walk in over there. I said, what's this? What was the non-kosher product? Well, it turns out that the non-kosher product was, in fact, a digestive enzyme that came from a davar acher, from what's known in the vernacular as a swine. And they had cleaned up the plant. This was already 3 days after they had finished that particular production, and they had cleaned up everything, and everything was cleaned up and all gone. And there happened to be a little a spot in the driveway, in the unloading bay from the tanker truck that had brought it in. It was kind of a little puddle over there that they missed, that had been sitting there. This incredibly intense, awful odor was coming from this little tiny puddle that was sitting there. And I said, I can't stand this. How did you guys do it? And they said, well, the operators had to rotate every 15 minutes. 15 minutes was the maximum that they could stay in the production area because it was just too overwhelmingly awful. So anyway, we koshered the roll dryer. We did Hagolan. We koshered the roll dryer, and then I said to our Rav Machsher, I said, you know, I think we never even needed to kosher this roll dryer because this stuff was so awful that there was no tom that was a good tom. It was lechatchila tom lifgam, and it was just terrible. But yeah, that was my last fun experience.
Yashikoyach, Rav Shimon Nachman, and you're doing the Avodas HaKodesh. You're lucky you.
Be'ezras Hashem Yisborach.
Maybe she should give you koyches to be mamshech in this holy work.
Amen.